He heartlessly kicked his pregnant wife out of the house and handed the mansion over to his mistress. But when the court officer knocked on the door, everything turned upside down. The city of Seattle glittered beneath the night sky, its lights a constellation against the darkness. From the floor-to-ceiling windows of the master bedroom, Olivia Westlake could see the Space Needle illuminated in the distance, a beacon piercing through the light drizzle that had persisted all day. Her reflection stared back at her, auburn hair pulled into a messy bun, green eyes rimmed with exhaustion, one hand resting protectively over her 5-month pregnant belly. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Another missed call from her doctor, the third one today. "Talk to me," she whispered to the empty room. "Just call and talk to me." But it wasn't Dr. Chen she was waiting to hear from. The clock on the wall read 11:37 p.m. Griffin was supposed to be home 4 hours ago. The sound of tires on wet pavement drew her attention to the circular driveway below. Headlights swept across the manicured lawn as a sleek black Audi pulled up to the entrance. Olivia's breath caught in her throat. Not Griffin's Tesla. This car belonged to Jocelyn Reed, her husband's executive assistant. Olivia stepped back from the window, her heart hammering against her ribs. She watched as two figures emerged from the vehicle. Griffin, his tall frame unmistakable even in the dim light, and Jocelyn, her blonde hair perfect despite the rain, laughing at something he said. They stood close, too close, their shoulders touching as they walked toward the front door. Olivia moved swiftly across the bedroom, her bare feet silent on the hardwood floors. She paused at the top of the grand staircase, listening as the front door opened. Griffin's voice drifted up, words indistinct but tone clear, warm, intimate, nothing like the clipped, distracted way he'd been speaking to her for months. "You're sure she's asleep?" Jocelyn's voice, barely a whisper. "Positive. She takes those pills the doctor prescribed. Out like a light by 9. A pause. The subtle sound of lips meeting. "I should go," Jocelyn murmured, though she made no move to leave. "Stay for one drink," Griffin replied. "Just one." Olivia's knees weakened. She gripped the banister to steady herself as a wave of nausea, not from the pregnancy this time, washed over her. The suspicions she'd been fighting to ignore for weeks crystallized into painful clarity. She should confront them, storm down the stairs and demand answers. But something held her back. Perhaps the primal instinct to protect the life growing inside her from stress, perhaps the fear of what would come after the confrontation. Instead, she retreated to the bedroom, closing the door without a sound. Her hands trembled as she picked up her phone. 3 missed calls from Dr. Chen, and now a text message. "Olivia, please call me back. Your latest test results show some concerns. We need to discuss additional precautions for you and the baby." She sank onto the edge of the bed, caught between 2 crises, one medical, one marital, both threatening to shatter the life she'd built. The irony wasn't lost on her. After years of designing spaces for others, the architect now found herself trapped in a house that no longer felt like home. The following morning, Olivia sat at the kitchen island, a cup of herbal tea cooling before her. She'd barely slept, spending most of the night staring at the ceiling, listening for sounds from downstairs. Eventually, she'd heard Jocelyn leave around 2 a.m., the Audi's engine fading into the distance. Griffin had never come upstairs. "Morning," Griffin's voice startled her. He looked immaculate in a charcoal suit, his silver-flecked dark hair perfectly styled, not a hint of his late night visible on his face. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep," Olivia replied, studying him. Had she imagined last night? The Griffin standing before her, pouring himself coffee, checking emails on his phone, seemed so normal, so familiar. The man she'd married 6 years ago, whose ambition she'd admired, whose drive had inspired her own career until she'd set it aside to support his expanding empire. "Dr. Chen called," she said, watching for his reaction. "Multiple times." Griffin barely looked up from his phone. "Everything okay?" "I don't know. I have an appointment this afternoon." "Today?" "I have back-to-back meetings about the downtown project. The investors are getting anxious about the timeline." "I know." Olivia took a sip of her tea. "I wasn't asking you to come." Something in her tone made Griffin look up, his grey eyes narrowing slightly. "Is there something wrong with the baby? Would you care if there was?" The words escaped before she could stop them. Griffin's expression shifted, annoyance flashing across his features. "What kind of question is that?" He set his coffee down with more force than necessary. "Of course I care." "Do you?" Because lately it seems like this pregnancy is just an inconvenience to you, like I'm an inconvenience. Griffin checked his watch. I don't have time for this right now. I have a meeting with Marshall in 30 minutes. Of course you do. Olivia stood, one hand instinctively moving to support her belly. You always have somewhere else to be. That's not fair. I'm working my ass off to finish this project. For us? Is that what you were going to say, for our future? She stepped closer to him. Tell me something, Griffin. Does our future include Jocelyn Reed? The color drained from Griffin's face, replaced almost immediately by a flush of anger. What are you talking about? I saw you last night, both of you. I heard you. Griffin's jaw tightened. He set his phone down carefully, too carefully, like a man deliberately controlling himself. You're spying on me now. Is that really your response? I tell you, I saw you with your assistant in our home at midnight and you accuse me of spying. You're hormonal and paranoid. Jocelyn dropped me off because my car's in the shop. We discussed the presentation for today's meeting, that's it. Don't. Olivia's voice cracked. Don't lie to me and then tell me I'm crazy for seeing what's right in front of me. Griffin sighed, running a hand through his hair, a gesture that once endeared him to her, now seeming calculated, buying time to formulate another lie. Look, I don't have time for this now. We'll talk tonight. He grabbed his briefcase. Try to rest today. You look tired. Before she could respond, he was gone, the front door closing with decisive finality. Olivia stood alone in the gleaming kitchen, surrounded by high-end appliances and imported marble, all symbols of success that suddenly felt hollow. Through the windows, she could see the carefully landscaped yard and beyond it, the glittering waters of Puget Sound, the view that had sold them on this house, that had inspired so many of her own designs. Her phone rang, Dr. Chen's name illuminating the screen. With trembling fingers, Olivia answered. Olivia, thank you for finally picking up. I've been concerned. I'm sorry, yesterday was complicated. I understand, but we need to discuss your test results. Your blood pressure is dangerously elevated, and there are concerning levels of protein in your urine. These are warning signs of pre-eclampsia. Olivia closed her eyes. What does that mean for the baby? It means we need to be very careful. I want to see you today. And Olivia, you need to minimize stress. It's critical at this stage. A bitter laugh escaped her lips. That might be difficult right now. Is everything okay at home? No, she admitted, her voice small. Nothing is okay. After ending the call with a promise to come in that afternoon, Olivia moved through the house like a ghost. In Griffin's home office, everything was meticulously organized. Desktop clear, files neatly labeled. A man in control. She hesitated before his desk. They'd never kept secrets from each other, at least not until recently. Opening drawers felt like crossing a line, but hadn't he already shattered the boundaries of their marriage? The top drawer contained nothing unusual. Pens, notepads, business cards. The second drawer was locked. That was new. Olivia stared at the keyhole, a small voice warning her that whatever lay inside would change everything. But hadn't everything already changed? Wasn't she just catching up to a reality that had been unfolding without her knowledge? She found the key in a hollowed-out book on the shelf, an obvious hiding place for a man who thought his wife would never look. Her hands shook as she inserted it into the lock. Inside were financial documents, a passport, and a small velvet box. Her stomach clenched as she opened it, revealing a diamond necklace she'd never seen before. Nestled beside it was a card with flowing script, "To beginnings worth waiting for. Love, G." The air seemed to vanish from the room. Olivia clutched the edge of the desk, fighting to breathe. Below the jewelry box lay a folder labeled Personal. Inside were printouts of email exchanges between Griffin and a real estate agent about a waterfront property she'd never heard of, along with preliminary divorce papers, dated 3 weeks earlier, the day after her last ultrasound, when they'd heard their baby's heartbeat together. Her phone buzzed with a text from Griffin, "Working late tonight. Don't wait up." Olivia placed everything back exactly as she'd found it, locked the drawer, and returned the key to its hiding place. She moved through the house in a daze, gathering her purse and keys for the doctor's appointment. As she reached the front door, it opened unexpectedly. Marshall Tanner stood on the threshold, hand raised to knock. His expression shifted from surprise to concern as he took in her pallor. "Olivia? Are you okay?" "Marshall, Griffin's not here. He's in meetings all day." "I know. That's why I came. The meeting this morning was cancelled. But Griffin never showed up at the office. Marshall hesitated. "May I come in? There's something we need to discuss." Olivia stepped back, allowing Griffin's oldest friend and business partner into the house. Unlike her husband, Marshall looked disheveled. His tie loosened, worry lines etched around his eyes. "What's going on?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Marshall glanced around as if ensuring they were alone. "I found something in the company accounts. Something that doesn't add up." He met her eyes directly. "I think Griffin is embezzling from our investors." The words hung in the air between them, another blow in a day already filled with betrayals. "How much?" Olivia finally asked. "Millions." Marshall's voice was grim. "And I have reason to believe he's planning to leave the country. Soon." Olivia's hand moved protectively to her belly, to the child who might never know its father. The world she'd thought was solid beneath her feet had turned to quicksand. "I need to get to a doctor's appointment," she said, her voice surprisingly calm. "But there's something you should see first." She led Marshall to Griffin's office and pointed to the hollow book on the shelf. "The drawer. Second one down." Marshall gave her a questioning look, but retrieved the key and opened the drawer. As he examined the contents, his expression hardened. "Olivia, I'm so sorry. Did you know? About Jocelyn?" Marshall shook his head. "I suspected something was off, but not this, not the extent of it." Olivia checked the time. "I have to go, my doctor is waiting." "Let me drive you," Marshall offered. "You shouldn't be alone right now." As they stepped out onto the porch, Olivia paused for a moment, looking back at the house. The showcase of their success, the backdrop for countless dinner parties and holiday celebrations. The place where she'd imagined raising their child. "Everything we built," she whispered. Was any of it real? Marshall had no answer as he guided her to his car, the Seattle rain beginning to fall once again, washing away the last remnants of the life Olivia had believed in just 24 hours earlier. The waiting room at Dr. Chen's office felt unnaturally quiet, the soft classical music doing little to ease the tension. Marshall sat beside Olivia, his presence both comforting and surreal, the loyal friend stepping into the role her husband should have filled. "Mrs. Westlake," a nurse appeared at the door. "Dr. Chen is ready for you." Olivia rose, then hesitated. "Would you mind coming in with me? I don't think I can face this alone." Marshall nodded, following her down the hallway. Dr. Chen, a petite woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, looked up from her tablet in surprise at Marshall's presence. "This is Marshall Tanner," Olivia explained. "A family friend." Something in her tone must have communicated the gravity of the situation, as Dr. Chen simply nodded and proceeded with the examination. The conversation that followed was filled with medical terminology and cautionary instructions, but the message was clear. Olivia's condition was precarious. "Bed rest," Dr. Chen emphasized, writing a prescription. "Limited activity. Your blood pressure is dangerously high, and I'm concerned about early onset preeclampsia. The medication should help, but stress is your enemy right now, Olivia." A bitter laugh escaped Olivia's lips before she could stop it. Dr. Chen looked up sharply. "I mean it. Your baby's health depends on it." She glanced at Marshall. "I hope you can help ensure she follows these instructions." Outside the office, Olivia leaned against the wall, prescription clutched in her hand. "How am I supposed to avoid stress when my entire life is imploding?" Marshall guided her toward the elevator. "Let me help you. We'll figure this out." "Why?" Olivia asked as the doors closed. "Why would you risk your partnership with Griffin to help me?" Marshall's eyes met hers in the mirrored wall. "Because it's the right thing to do, and because I've watched you pour your heart and talent into supporting him for years. You deserve better." The pharmacy was crowded, forcing them to wait. Olivia sat in a molded plastic chair, trying to process the collision of crises in her life. Her phone buzzed with a text from Griffin. "Where are you? Came home for files, house empty." She stared at the screen, thumbs hovering over the keyboard. What could she possibly say? "I know everything seemed melodramatic. With your business partner discussing your embezzlement and affair too confrontational. Everything okay?" Marshall asked, noticing her expression. "Griffin's looking for me. Are you going to tell him where you are?" Olivia thought about the prenatal vitamins Griffin had consistently forgotten to pick up, the doctor's appointments he'd missed, the nursery plans he'd kept delaying. "No," she decided. "Not yet." She tucked the phone away without responding, just as a woman approached them. Diane Fujimoto, an interior designer who had collaborated with Olivia on several projects before her career hiatus. "Olivia, it's been ages." Diane embraced her warmly, then noticed her condition. "My goodness, congratulations. When are you due?" "Early September," Olivia managed to smile. "That's wonderful. And how's Griffin? Still conquering Seattle's skyline?" "One building at a time," Olivia replied, the social mask slipping over her features with practiced ease. "I've been following the downtown project in the business section. Quite ambitious, even for him." Marshall shifted uncomfortably beside her. "Actually, Diane," Olivia said, making a split-second decision, "I've been thinking about getting back into design. Part-time, at least initially. Would you be open to coffee next week to discuss potential collaboration?" Surprise and delight crossed Diane's face. "Absolutely. I've missed your eye for sustainable materials. Call me. We'll set something up." After Diane left, Marshall gave Olivia a questioning look. "Hedging my bets," she explained quietly. "If everything's about to fall apart, I need to start rebuilding somewhere." The house was empty when they returned. Olivia went straight to the kitchen, suddenly ravenous despite everything. Marshall insisted on cooking while she rested, and soon the smell of garlic and olive oil filled the space. "You didn't have to do this," Olivia said, watching him navigate her kitchen with unexpected competence. "Pasta aglio e olio. The only dish my Italian grandmother made sure I could cook properly before she died." He slid a plate in front of her. "Eat. Doctor's orders." The simple act of being cared for brought tears to her eyes. She blinked them away, focusing on the food. "We need to talk strategy," Marshall said, joining her at the island. "The financial situation at Westlake Development is worse than I initially thought. Griffin has been falsifying reports to investors for months." "How bad?" "Federal investigation bad. I've been gathering evidence, but I needed to warn you before I take the next step." Olivia set down her fork. "You're going to report him." "I have to, Olivia. It's not just about the money, people's retirement funds, college savings. It's about preventing more damage." She nodded slowly. "Do what you have to do." The front door opened, followed by Griffin's voice. "Olivia?" Marshall tensed, but Olivia placed a hand on his arm. "Let me handle this." Griffin appeared in the kitchen doorway, his confident stride faltering at the sight of Marshall. His eyes darted between them, calculating. "What's going on here?" "Marshall drove me to my doctor's appointment," Olivia replied. "Since my husband was too busy." Griffin's jaw tightened. "A little heads up would have been nice. I came home worried when I couldn't find you." "Worried? That's new?" Olivia pushed her plate away. "Dr. Chen has put me on bed rest. Apparently my blood pressure is dangerously high. Stress, she says." Griffin had the decency to look concerned, though his eyes kept shifting to Marshall. "I'm sorry to hear that. Maybe Marshall should go so you can rest." "Actually," Marshall stood, "I think we all need to talk." "About what?" Griffin's voice cooled. "The Highline Project financials, the offshore accounts, the missing investor funds." The color drained from Griffin's face. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't insult my intelligence, Griffin. I've seen the books." Griffin's expression hardened. "You've been snooping through company records without authorization? That's grounds for dissolution of our partnership." "Is that really the direction you want to take this?" Marshall challenged. Griffin turned to Olivia. "Could you give us the room? This is business." "No," Olivia's voice was steady. "I think I'll stay. After all, I'm a shareholder in Westlake Development." Griffin's eyes narrowed. "Since when do you care about the business details?" "Since I found divorce papers in your desk, dated 3 weeks ago." The ensuing silence was deafening. Griffin's composure slipped for just a moment before he regained control. "You went through my private things," he said coldly. "After watching you come home with your assistant at midnight?" "Yes, I did." Marshall cleared his throat. "Griffin, this isn't just about your marriage. You're looking at serious legal consequences. Securities fraud, wire fraud, enough." Griffin slammed his hand on the counter. "Both of you, listen carefully. You don't know what you're talking about. The project is under temporary cash flow issues. Everything will be resolved when we close the Morgan financing next week." "There is no Morgan financing," Marshall countered. "I checked. They pulled out last month after their due diligence raised red flags. You've been lying to everyone. The board, the investors, your wife." Griffin's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression shifting subtly. "I need to take this. We'll continue this conversation later." "Griffin," Olivia called as he turned away. "Is it Jocelyn?" He froze. Don't do this now, Olivia. When should I do it? After you've emptied our accounts? After you've fled the country with your girlfriend? Griffin spun around, his composure finally cracking. You want the truth? Fine. Yes. Jocelyn and I are together. Have been for nearly a year. This marriage has been over for longer than that. You just didn't want to see it. The words struck like physical blows. Even knowing what she did, hearing him say it aloud, cut deeper than Olivia had anticipated. And the baby? She asked, her voice barely audible. Griffin's expression hardened. A complication I didn't ask for. Marshall stepped forward. That's enough. Stay out of this, Griffin snapped. This isn't your marriage. No, but it is my company too. And you've put everything we've built at risk. Griffin laughed, a cold sound devoid of humor. You think you know everything, don't you? Always the righteous one. Tell me, how long have you been waiting for my marriage to fail so you could swoop in? I've seen how you look at her. Marshall's face flushed. You're desperate and lashing out. Am I wrong? Griffin challenged, then turned to Olivia. Did you know your white knight has been in love with you for years? Ask him. Ask him why he never married, why he always finds excuses to be around you. Olivia looked at Marshall, seeing the truth in his stunned expression. Griffin's phone buzzed again. I have to go. We'll discuss division of assets with lawyers present. He moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I did love you once. Before all of this. After he left, silence descended on the kitchen. Marshall stood still, unable to meet Olivia's eyes. Is it true? She finally asked. He nodded almost imperceptibly. Not the way he made it sound. I wouldn't have. I know. Olivia felt oddly calm. Why didn't you ever say anything? You chose him. You loved him. And then you were married, and my feelings didn't matter. Marshall finally looked at her. I'm sorry, that's the last thing you needed to hear today. Before Olivia could respond, her phone chimed with an alert. An email from their joint account at First Seattle Bank. Confirmation of wire transfer, $2. $5 million to account ending in 4732. Her blood ran cold. He's moving money now. Marshall was beside her instantly, reading over her shoulder. That's his personal offshore account, the one I found in the investigation. Another alert appeared. Confirmation of wire transfer, $1.8 million to account ending in 8901. He's clearing everything out, Marshall said grimly. We need to act fast. Olivia's mind raced. Their life savings, the baby's future, the house, everything was at risk. She pushed herself to her feet. I need my laptop. In the home office, Olivia pulled up their investment accounts, hands flying over the keyboard. Most showed pending withdrawal requests. Can you stop them? Marshall asked. Some, not all. She worked frantically, changing passwords, canceling transfers where possible. He's trying to liquidate everything. Marshall was on his own phone, speaking rapidly to someone at the bank. Yes. Suspected fraud. Immediate freeze required. A third notification appeared on Olivia's phone, this one from the home security system. Front gate access, Jocelyn Reed. Authorized by G. Westlake. Olivia looked up at Marshall, her face pale. She's coming here, now. We need to finish securing what accounts we can, he insisted. Let her come. Minutes later, they heard the front door open, followed by the click of heels on marble. Jocelyn appeared in the doorway, surprise registering on her perfect features at the sight of them. Olivia. Marshall, I wasn't expecting. She recovered quickly, professional mask sliding into place. Griffin asked me to collect some files from his office. Did he? Olivia rose slowly, one hand on her belly. How convenient. Just as he's emptying our bank accounts. Jocelyn's expression didn't change, but her eyes darted to the computer screen. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just here for work files. Stop lying, Jocelyn, Olivia said quietly. It's over. All of it. Something shifted in Jocelyn's demeanor, the polished assistant facade cracking to reveal something harder beneath. You know, he never planned for you to find out this way, she said. The papers were supposed to be served next week, after the Miami deal closed. The Miami deal, there's no... Marshall began, then stopped as understanding dawned. That's where the money's going. You two are setting up in Miami. Jocelyn's smile was razor thin. Griffin deserves a fresh start. A partner who understands his ambitions. Not someone who's trying to slow him down with suburban domesticity. Her eyes flicked to Olivia's pregnant belly with undisguised disdain. Olivia felt a strange calm descend over her. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into. I think I do. Jocelyn stepped further into the room. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need those files. No. Marshall moved to block her path. Whatever Griffin sent you for, you're not getting it. Jocelyn's hand moved to her purse, withdrawing an envelope. Actually, I have something for you, Olivia. Griffin wanted me to deliver this personally. She held out the envelope. Marshall tried to intercept it, but Olivia reached it first. Inside was a single page, official-looking with legal letterhead. As she read, the blood drained from her face. Her knees buckled, forcing her to grab the desk for support. Olivia. Marshall was at her side instantly. What is it? She handed him the paper, her hand trembling. He's not just divorcing me, she whispered, the words barely audible. He's filed for full custody of our baby. The custody papers trembled in Olivia's hand, each word more devastating than the last. Griffin had constructed a narrative, portraying her as mentally unstable, claiming her obsessive focus on his business dealings demonstrated paranoid tendencies that would endanger their child. This is insane, Marshall muttered, scanning the document. No judge would take this seriously. Jocelyn's perfect lips curved into a smile. You'd be surprised what Griffin's attorney can accomplish. He's quite persuasive. Get out. Olivia's voice was low, dangerous. Get out of my house. It's not your house, though, is it? Jocelyn's eyes gleamed with triumph. The deed is in Griffin's name. Another oversight on your part. Marshall stepped toward Jocelyn. You heard her. Leave now. Something in his tone must have penetrated Jocelyn's confidence. She retreated toward the door, but not before delivering a parting shot. Griffin will be sending movers tomorrow for his personal items. I suggest you start packing yours as well. The front door closed with a decisive click, leaving Olivia and Marshall in stunned silence. For a moment, neither moved. Then Olivia's legs gave way, and she sank into Griffin's desk chair, one hand protectively covering her belly. He wants to take my baby, she whispered, the words barely audible. Why would he? He doesn't even want this child. Marshall knelt beside her. He won't succeed. This is a power play, nothing more. You don't understand. Griffin never loses. Her words cut off abruptly as a sharp pain lanced through her abdomen. She gasped, doubling over. Olivia? Marshall's voice seemed distant through the sudden rush of blood in her ears. Something's wrong, she managed, panic rising. The baby. Marshall didn't hesitate. He swept her into his arms and carried her from the office, moving with careful urgency toward the front door. I'm taking you to the hospital. Now. Emergency rooms have their own particular sensory landscape. The antiseptic smell, the harsh fluorescent lighting, the hushed voices punctuated by occasional urgency. Olivia lay on a gurney, an IV in her arm, monitors beeping steadily as they tracked both her vital signs and the baby's heartbeat. The curtain parted as Dr. Chen entered, having been called in by the ER physician. Her expression was grave as she reviewed the chart. Your blood pressure is through the roof, she said without preamble. The stress has triggered early contractions. We've managed to stop them for now, but Olivia, this is exactly what I warned you about. I know, Olivia whispered, guilt washing over her. In the midst of discovering Griffin's betrayal, she'd momentarily forgotten the most important thing, the life depending on her. Dr. Chen's expression softened slightly. The good news is that we caught it in time. The baby's vitals are stable, but I'm admitting you need constant monitoring for at least 48 hours. After the doctor left, Marshall sat beside the bed, his presence a steady anchor in the storm. I spoke to my cousin Rachel. She's a family law attorney. She's coming first thing tomorrow to talk options. Olivia nodded, too exhausted for words. The medication they'd given her to stop the contractions made her thoughts fuzzy, disconnected. One clear realization emerged through the haze. She'd been fighting the wrong battle. While she'd been focused on saving her marriage, the true fight, for her child, for herself, was just beginning. Get some rest, Marshall urged, rising to leave. I'll be back in the morning. Marshall, she caught his hand, surprising them both. Thank you. For everything. He squeezed her fingers gently. Always. After he left, Olivia lay in the dim hospital room, listening to the reassuring rhythm of her baby's heartbeat on the monitor. For the first time since discovering Griffin's betrayal, her mind quieted, focusing on a single thought. Whatever happened next, she would protect this child no matter what it took. Rachel Tanner arrived the following morning, a whirlwind of competence in a navy suit. Unlike her cousin Marshall, she was petite with cropped dark hair and piercing eyes that missed nothing. She settled into the visitor's chair, notebook already open. "Marshall filled me in on the basics," she began without preamble. "But I need to hear everything from you. The timeline, the financials, the custody threat. Don't leave anything out." For the next hour, Olivia recounted the collapse of her marriage, the discovered embezzlement, and Griffin's custody play. Rachel took meticulous notes, interrupting occasionally with razor-sharp questions. "So to summarize," Rachel said finally, "your husband is committing financial fraud, having an affair with his assistant, attempting to hide assets before filing for divorce, and now threatening to take custody of your unborn child, despite previously showing minimal interest." "That about covers it," Olivia confirmed, the absurdity of the situation hitting her anew. Rachel nodded, a dangerous glint in her eye. "Mrs. Westlake, I specialize in high-conflict divorce cases, particularly those involving financial misconduct. I've seen this playbook before. The preemptive custody filing is a negotiation tactic. He doesn't want the baby. He wants leverage. For what? To make you back off from the financial side. He's hoping you'll trade assets for custody." The realization sent a chill through Olivia. "He's using our child as a bargaining chip." "Exactly. And that's where he's made his first mistake." Rachel leaned forward. "Judges hate that. Now here's what we're going to do." By the time Rachel left, Olivia had signed retainer agreements and authorized legal actions that would freeze Griffin's remaining accessible assets. The attorney had also filed an emergency protective order, preventing Griffin from entering the Queen Anne house until a court hearing. "We're playing offense now," Rachel had said, "not defense." Marshall arrived shortly after, carrying a small duffel with Olivia's personal items from home. "I thought you might need these. How are you feeling?" "Better," Olivia admitted. "More clear." Marshall hesitated. "Griffin came to the office this morning. He's furious about the account freezes." "Good," Olivia said, surprising herself with the steel in her voice. "Let him be furious. There's something else you should know." Marshall sat on the edge of the bed. "The SEC has opened a formal investigation into Westlake Development. I had to give them everything I found." Olivia absorbed this, understanding the implications. Griffin wasn't just facing divorce. He was facing potential criminal charges. "What will happen to the company?" she asked quietly. "It depends on how extensive the fraud is. Best case, heavy fines and restructuring. Worst case?" He let the sentence hang unfinished. Olivia nodded, processing. The company had been Griffin's dream, but she'd contributed years of unpaid design work, networking and support. Its fate affected her too. "I need to ask you something," she said finally, "and I need the truth. Your feelings for me, have they affected your decisions about reporting Griffin?" Marshall looked her straight in the eyes. "No, I would have done exactly the same thing if I felt nothing for you. What Griffin did is wrong. Full stop." She studied his face, finding only sincerity. "Okay, for what it's worth," he added softly. "I never expected anything to come of those feelings. Still don't. That's not why I'm here." "I know." Olivia squeezed his hand briefly. "But things are complicated enough without unacknowledged truths between us." The moment was interrupted by a nurse entering with a blood pressure cuff. After checking Olivia's vitals, she delivered good news. "Dr. Chen is pleased with your progress. If all stays stable, you can go home tomorrow morning." "Home," Olivia echoed after the nurse left. The word felt hollow. Was the Queen Anne house still home? Would it ever feel that way again? "You could stay at my place," Marshall offered. "I have a guest room. Might be better than going back to that house alone." Olivia shook her head. "I need to face it. I need to—" She trailed off, realizing that what she truly needed was to reclaim her space, her life. "I need to start rebuilding." The following morning, Dr. Chen discharged Olivia with strict instructions for continued bed rest and stress reduction. Marshall drove her home, the journey passing in contemplative silence. As they turned onto her street, Olivia stiffened. "Stop the car." A moving truck was parked in the driveway, men in uniform carrying boxes and furniture out the front door. "What the hell?" Marshall pulled over across the street. "Rachel got that order signed. He can't be here." "He's not." Olivia pointed to the slender blonde figure directing the movers from the porch. Jocelyn. Anger coursed through Olivia, hot and clarifying. Without waiting for Marshall, she got out of the car and marched across the street, ignoring his calls to wait. "What do you think you're doing?" she demanded, confronting Jocelyn at the base of the steps. Jocelyn's surprise quickly morphed into smug confidence. "Griffin's attorney said he could send movers for his personal property. That's all this is." "That sofa is not his personal property." Olivia gestured to the Italian leather couch being maneuvered through the door. "Neither is the dining table or the artwork." Jocelyn shrugged. "The receipts are all in his name. Legally, they're his." Marshall caught up, placing a steadying hand on Olivia's shoulder. "This violates the court order. I'm calling Rachel." As he stepped away to make the call, Olivia faced Jocelyn directly. "Why are you doing this? You've already won. You have Griffin. What more do you want?" Something shifted in Jocelyn's expression, a flicker of vulnerability quickly masked. "You had everything handed to you. The perfect life, the successful husband, this house. You didn't earn any of it." "Is that what you think?" Olivia laughed, the sound bitter. "That I just sat back and collected the benefits of being Mrs. Westlake? I designed half the properties in his portfolio. I entertained his clients, managed his social calendar, built his network. I worked every bit as hard as he did. And yet he signed everything in his name," Jocelyn countered. "Not very smart, was it?" The barb struck home, but Olivia refused to show it. "Get off my property, now." "Your name isn't on the deed, Olivia. It's not your property." "Actually," Marshall rejoined them, phone in hand, "Washington is a community property state. As Griffin's wife, Olivia has equal claim to all assets acquired during the marriage, including this house. And Rachel just confirmed with a judge that the moving truck needs to go." Jocelyn's confidence wavered. "Griffin won't like this." "Griffin can take it up with my attorney," Olivia replied. "Now get out before the police arrive to enforce the order." After a tense standoff, Jocelyn backed down, instructing the movers to return everything to the house. As she stalked to her car, she called over her shoulder. "This isn't over, not even close." Once she'd gone, Olivia's adrenaline crashed. She swayed slightly and Marshall guided her to the porch bench. "You shouldn't be on your feet," he admonished gently. "Doctor's orders." "I couldn't let her." Olivia's voice broke. "This is still my home." Marshall nodded, understanding. "Let's get you inside and settled." The house felt different somehow, violated by Jocelyn's presence, by the movers' hands on her things. Olivia moved through the spaces slowly, reacquainting herself with rooms that suddenly seemed too large, too empty. In the master bedroom, she paused. "I can't sleep here, not right now." "Guest room?" Marshall suggested. She nodded, allowing him to help her get settled in the blue room down the hall, the one she'd secretly begun envisioning as a nursery. "I'll make some tea," Marshall said. "Then I should probably go. People might talk if I stay too long." "Let them talk," Olivia replied, too exhausted to care about appearances. "I need a friend right now more than I need to worry about gossip." While Marshall was downstairs, Olivia's phone buzzed with an incoming email. The sender made her heart skip. Griffin. Her finger hovered over the delete button, but curiosity won out. She opened the message. "Olivia, your attorney contacted mine. This doesn't have to get ugly. I'm willing to be generous in the settlement if you stop interfering with my business affairs. The custody filing was an unfortunate escalation. We both know I have no interest in raising a child alone. Drop the financial inquiries and I'll withdraw it immediately. Be reasonable. You can walk away from this with enough to start over comfortably. Push further, and you'll leave with nothing. Griffin." The naked manipulation of the message left Olivia breathless with fury. He was offering to trade their child for money, confirming exactly what Rachel had predicted. She was still staring at the screen when Marshall returned with tea. One look at her face told him something was wrong. "What happened?" Wordlessly, she handed him the phone. His expression darkened as he read. "This is actually helpful for your case," he said finally. "It proves he's using the custody threat as leverage." "I know." Olivia took the phone back, her thoughts crystallizing. "And I'm going to make him regret it." She began typing, fingers flying across the screen. "Griffin, thank you for putting your intentions in writing. My attorney will add this email to our file. To be clear, I will not be dropping any inquiries into your financial activities. I will not be intimidated by your custody threats. And I will not walk away from what I helped build. You chose the nuclear option. Now you'll learn what that really means. Olivia." After hitting send, she set the phone aside, a strange calm settling over her. The lines had been drawn. There would be no amicable resolution, no clean break. "Are you sure about this?" Marshall asked quietly. "He won't back down easily. Neither will I." Olivia sipped her tea, determination hardening within her. Not anymore. 3 days passed in relative quiet. Olivia followed Dr. Chen's orders, resting and working remotely on small design projects for Diane, who had eagerly welcomed her back into the field. Marshall stopped by daily, bringing groceries and updates on the company situation, which was deteriorating rapidly as the SEC investigation expanded. On the 4th morning, Olivia woke to an insistent knocking at the front door. Wrapping herself in a robe, she made her way downstairs, expecting perhaps a package delivery. Instead, she found 2 uniformed police officers on her doorstep. "Mrs. Westlake?" one asked, his expression grave. "Yes?" A sense of foreboding crept over her. "I'm Officer Daniels, Seattle PD. This is Officer Rivera. May we come in? We have some questions about your husband, Griffin Westlake." Olivia stepped back, allowing them entry, her mind racing. Had Griffin's financial crimes escalated to criminal charges already? "What's this about?" she asked, leading them to the living room. Officer Daniels removed his hat. "Ma'am, when was the last time you had contact with your husband?" 5 days ago, by email." Something in their demeanor sent a chill through her. "Why? What's happened?" The officers exchanged a glance before Officer Rivera spoke. "Mr. Westlake's vehicle was discovered this morning at the bottom of a ravine off Highway 2 near Stevens Pass. There was significant damage consistent with the car leaving the road at high speed. The room seemed to tilt." Olivia gripped the back of a chair for support. Was he? "The car was empty, Mrs. Westlake. There was no body at the scene." Relief flooded her, followed immediately by confusion. "I don't understand." "Neither do we, ma'am." His passport was found in the vehicle, along with his wallet and phone. There were signs of blood on the driver's airbag, but not enough to indicate fatal injuries. Officer Daniels leaned forward. "Mrs. Westlake, we understand you and your husband were in the process of separating. We have to ask, do you have any reason to believe he might have staged this incident?" The implication struck her like a physical blow. "You think he faked his own death?" "We're exploring all possibilities. Given the ongoing SEC investigation and the..." Officer Rivera consulted his notes. "Substantial financial irregularities being uncovered. It's a scenario we need to consider." Olivia sank into a chair, her hand instinctively moving to her belly. "I don't know, he was certainly desperate, but this..." "One more question, Mrs. Westlake. Do you know anyone named Elena Kuznetsova?" The name meant nothing to her. "No." "Who is she?" Officer Daniels produced a photograph, a surveillance still from what appeared to be an airport. It showed Griffin, his arm around a dark-haired woman who was decidedly not Jocelyn Reed. Facial recognition flagged this from SeaTac security footage. It was taken yesterday afternoon. The woman used a Russian passport in the name Elena Kuznetsova. They boarded a flight to Vancouver. Olivia stared at the image, the final piece of the puzzle clicking into place with sickening clarity. There was no Jocelyn in Griffin's future plans, no child. Not even the blonde assistant had known the full extent of his deception. "He's gone," she whispered, the magnitude of the betrayal washing over her. He planned this all along. The Seattle skyline blurred behind sheets of autumn rain as Olivia stared out from Rachel Tanner's office on the 32nd floor of Columbia Center. 4 weeks had passed since Griffin's disappearance, weeks that had transformed her understanding of her marriage and herself. "The forensic accountants have completed their initial assessment," Rachel said, sliding a thick folder across the polished conference table. "It's worse than we thought." Olivia flipped through pages of financial statements, her architectural eye trained to see patterns where others might miss them. He was planning this for over a year, at least. The first major transfer to the Cayman account was 14 months ago. Rachel pointed to a highlighted line. "Right around the time you told him you wanted to start trying for a baby." The timing wasn't lost on Olivia. While she'd been dreaming of family, Griffin had been plotting his escape. What about Jocelyn? Was she part of this? The FBI interviewed her extensively. They believe she was a convenient distraction, someone to focus your suspicions on while he prepared to leave with this Elena woman. Rachel tapped the surveillance photo from SeaTac. "Jocelyn seems genuinely shocked. She's cooperating fully. And the house, the company." Rachel's expression softened slightly. "That's the one piece of good news. Since Griffin is legally a fugitive and under federal investigation, the courts have granted our petition to release certain assets for your use. You can remain in the house, and you'll receive a monthly stipend from the company's operational accounts. What's left of them? Olivia murmured. The Westlake Development Group was in administrative receivership, its projects halted, its reputation shattered. The downtown complex, Griffin's crown jewel, stood half-finished, a skeletal monument to hubris and fraud. There's something else, Rachel said carefully. The FBI found additional accounts. Griffin appears to have hidden approximately $20 million that they haven't been able to trace yet. Olivia laughed bitterly. Of course he did. They believe Elena Kuznetsova may be the key. Her background is interesting. Former financial analyst with connections to several oligarchs, they suspect she helped Griffin structure his exit strategy. While I was choosing nursery colors, the weight of her naivety pressed down on Olivia like a physical force. All those late nights she'd attributed to work, the mysterious business trips, the growing emotional distance, the signs had been there all along. Rachel gathered the papers into a neat stack. The U.S. Attorney's Office wants to meet with you next week. They're building a case for if they apprehend Griffin. If. The word hung in the air between them. International fugitives with resources often remained free for years, sometimes forever. What do I tell my child someday? Olivia wondered aloud, her hand resting on her now prominent belly. About who their father is. Rachel had no answer for that. The nursery walls were the color of sea glass, neither blue nor green, but something in between, catching light differently throughout the day. Olivia stood in the center of the room, surveying her work. In the weeks since learning of Griffin's elaborate betrayal, she'd channeled her pain into transformation, one room at a time. This space, once designated as a home gym Griffin rarely used, now contained a handcrafted crib, a comfortable rocking chair, and bookshelves filled with stories awaiting their reader. On the wall hung framed architectural sketches, Olivia's designs for buildings never constructed, dreams deferred but not forgotten. It's beautiful, Marshall said from the doorway, careful not to intrude too far into this sanctuary she'd created. Thank you. Olivia adjusted a small wooden mobile of sailing ships. It helped to have something to focus on. Besides the legal nightmare. Besides that, she agreed with a small smile. Their relationship had settled into a comfortable rhythm. Marshall stopping by several times a week with meals or updates, careful to maintain appropriate boundaries while providing the support she needed. The unspoken feelings between them remained just that, unspoken. There would be time to explore possibilities later if they chose to. For now, friendship was enough. Diane called, Olivia said, lowering herself carefully into the rocking chair. At 7 months pregnant, her movements had become more deliberate. She's offered me a junior partnership. Marshall's eyebrows rose. That's fantastic. Are you going to take it? I think so. It's part-time initially. Project-based work I can mostly do from home until the baby's older. She ran her hand over the armrest, feeling the grain of the wood. I need to build something new, something that's just mine. The doorbell rang, interrupting their conversation. Marshall went to answer it, returning moments later with a manila envelope. Special delivery from Rachel's office, he explained, handing it to Olivia. Inside was a single document, a court order granting her petition to legally revert to her maiden name. Olivia Kingston, not Westlake. A small victory, but significant. One step at a time, she murmured. Marshall nodded, understanding. I should go. I promised to meet with the receiver about salvaging the Belltown project. After he left, Olivia remained in the rocking chair, watching shadows lengthen across the nursery floor. The quiet house no longer felt empty but expectant, awaiting the new life that would soon fill it with sound and movement. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother in Chicago. Flight arrives 2 p.m. tomorrow. Can't wait to see you and help prepare for my grandchild. Love you. Another piece of her new reality falling into place. After years of maintaining polite distance during holidays and occasional visits, Olivia had reached out to her parents when everything imploded. Their immediate unconditional support had been a revelation and a painful reminder of the connections she'd allowed to atrophy while orbiting Griffin's world. She texted back a heart emoji, then set the phone aside, closing her eyes. The baby kicked, a reassuring flutter of life and possibility. You need to see this, Marshall said without preamble, placing his laptop on the kitchen island 2 weeks later. Olivia looked up from the design plans she'd been reviewing for Diane. Marshall rarely appeared unannounced, especially not with that expression, part concern, part barely contained anger. The screen showed a news article from a Vancouver business journal. The headline made her stomach drop. Rising star. Russian investor. Launches luxury development in British Columbia. Below was a photograph of a striking, dark-haired woman, Elena Kuznetsova, standing at a podium. And in the background, slightly blurred but unmistakable, was Griffin. "They're not even hiding," Olivia whispered, the betrayal fresh again. "He's just starting over, like none of this happened." Marshall sat beside her. "Rachel's already forwarding this to the FBI. International jurisdiction complicates things, but Canada has extradition treaties with the US. It won't matter." Olivia pushed the laptop away. "He'll have planned for that too." "You don't know that." "I know Griffin." She stood, moving to the window. Outside, autumn leaves spiraled from the maple trees lining the street. "He's always 3 steps ahead, always has an exit strategy. He won't be caught unless he wants to be." Marshall studied her carefully. "Does it bother you, seeing him with her?" Olivia considered the question, searching her feelings. "Not in the way you might think. I'm not jealous. She struggled to identify the emotion. "I'm offended by the injustice. That he gets to walk away and start fresh, while I'm left dealing with the wreckage. That's understandable." "Is it?" She turned back to him. "Because sometimes I worry that I'm becoming bitter, that I'm letting what he did define me." "You're one of the least bitter people I know, Olivia." Marshall closed the laptop. "You're rebuilding your career, preparing for your child, moving forward. That's not bitterness. That's resilience." The word resonated. Resilience. Not the absence of pain, but the ability to grow through it. Her phone rang. The special ringtone she'd assigned to Rachel Tanner. Something important. "Rachel, I was just looking at the Vancouver article," Olivia said by way of greeting. "That's why I'm calling," Rachel replied, her voice tight with controlled urgency. "The FBI is moving on this, but there's another development. They found one of the missing accounts. It's in your name." "What?" Olivia sank into a chair. "That's impossible. I know. Griffin set it up using your social security number and a forged signature. It contains approximately $4 million. Rachel paused. "There's more. He's filed a claim against it from Canada, alleging that you stole the money before he left." The audacity stole Olivia's breath. "He's blaming me for his financial crimes after everything?" "It gets worse. His Canadian attorney has submitted documents suggesting you were complicit in the embezzlement scheme, that you handled the design aspects of projects where costs were inflated for kickbacks." The room seemed to tilt. "That's not true. I never had anything to do with the financial side." "I know that, and we can prove it. But Olivia, this changes our strategy. He's not just running. He's actively trying to deflect blame onto you." After the call ended, Olivia relayed the developments to Marshall, who listened with growing outrage. "This is beyond despicable," he said when she finished. "Using your identity to hide money, then accusing you of his crimes." "It's his end game," Olivia realized, the pieces falling into place. "He needed someone to take the fall. If enough doubt is cast on who was really responsible, he might even be able to return someday once the legal heat dies down. We won't let that happen." The word was a comfort, a reminder that unlike Griffin, she wasn't facing this alone. The U.S. Attorney's Office was a study in institutional blandness. Beige walls, functional furniture, fluorescent lighting that flattened everything. Olivia sat at a conference table across from Assistant U.S. Attorney James Wong and 2 FBI agents, feeling the weight of her 8 months pregnant body acutely in the uncomfortable chair. "We appreciate you coming in, Ms. Kingston," Wong began, using her restored maiden name. "We have some difficult questions to ask." "I understand," Olivia replied, grateful for Rachel's steady presence beside her. What followed was 3 hours of intense questioning about her role in Westlake development, her knowledge of Griffin's business practices, access to financial records, and awareness of specific transactions. The agents were thorough, but not accusatory, clearly building a case against Griffin rather than her. Until the last hour, when the tone subtly shifted. "Ms. Kingston, we've been analyzing the design specifications for the Highline project," one agent said, sliding a folder toward her. "These call for substantially more expensive materials than were actually used in construction." Olivia examined the documents, recognizing her own design notes. Yes, these were my original specs, but Griffin often made substitutions for cost reasons. That's not unusual in development. Did you approve these substitutions? Formally, no. Griffin handled that with the contractors. The agent leaned forward. Were you aware that Westlake Development billed investors for the original high-end materials while installing cheaper alternatives? Olivia glanced at Rachel, who nodded slightly. No, I was not aware of that practice. Yet you attended investor meetings where these specifications were displayed. I presented design concepts, Olivia clarified. I wasn't involved in budget discussions, Wong intervened. Let me be direct, Ms. Kingston. We've seen evidence suggesting Griffin Westlake may attempt to characterize you as a knowing participant in his scheme. Emails where he consulted you about cost-saving measures. Your signature on certain project documents. Rachel placed a hand on Olivia's arm. My client has been consistent in her statements. She was not involved in the financial aspects of Westlake Development. Then how do you explain this? The second agent produced a printout of an email, ostensibly from Olivia to Griffin, discussing ways to maximize investor contributions while minimizing actual expenditures. Olivia stared at the document in disbelief. I never wrote this. This isn't even how I communicate. The email came from your account. Then it was forged, or my account was compromised. Olivia felt a flutter of panic. Griffin had been meticulous in constructing his exit. How many more fabricated breadcrumbs had he left to implicate her? Rachel intervened. We'll need copies of all these alleged communications. Ms. Kingston is prepared to provide full access to her email accounts and personal records to demonstrate these are fabrications. Wong nodded, his expression revealing nothing. That would be helpful. In the meantime, I should inform you that we're considering multiple charges against Griffin Westlake, including wire fraud, securities fraud, and identity theft. The investigation remains ongoing, including the extent of involvement by other parties. The implication was clear. Olivia wasn't officially a suspect, but she wasn't entirely in the clear either. Outside the federal building, rain fell in sheets, mirroring Olivia's darkening mood. He's setting me up to take the fall, she said as they waited for a taxi. If they can't catch him, they might come after me instead. It won't come to that, Rachel assured her. We have truth on our side. Does that matter? Olivia watched raindrops race down the glass shelter. Griffin fabricated evidence. He had months, maybe years, to create a paper trail implicating me. Evidence can be disproven. Forensic IT specialists can show emails were forged. We can establish that you had no access to the financial systems. Rachel squeezed her shoulder. This is a setback, not a defeat. But as days turned into weeks, the situation deteriorated. More forged emails emerged. A contractor came forward claiming Olivia had personally directed him to use inferior materials while maintaining the higher cost in documents. Griffin's lawyer in Vancouver issued a statement suggesting she had been the financial architect of the scheme, while Griffin was merely focused on the visionary aspects of development. The protective bubble that had surrounded her as a pregnant woman began to thin as whispers spread through Seattle's business community. Former friends and associates grew distant. An article appeared in the business section of the Seattle Times. Westlake scandal. Were there two architects of fraud? Even Marshall, steadfast as he'd been, faced scrutiny as Griffin's former partner. The receivership questioned his role in identifying the fraud, suggesting he might have been covering his own involvement by blaming Griffin. By late November, with her due date approaching, Olivia felt the walls closing in. The FBI had seized her personal computers and phones. Her bank accounts, though not frozen, were being monitored. The money from Diane's design projects was her only independent income, and even that was complicated by clients nervous about the association. It's a character assassination, Dr. Chen observed during Olivia's weekly checkup. The obstetrician had remained one of her few unwavering supporters. And at the worst possible time, your blood pressure is elevated again. Everything's falling apart, Olivia admitted. Just when I thought I was rebuilding. Dr. Chen made a note in her chart. I want you to come in twice weekly now until delivery. And Olivia, consider a media blackout. No news, no social media. Focus on your baby. Easier said than done when your life was becoming a public spectacle. That evening, Olivia sat in the nursery, the room that had once represented hope, now feeling like a fragile bubble that could burst at any moment. Her mother had returned to Chicago for Thanksgiving, but would be back for the birth. Marshall had stopped by less frequently, aware that his presence could fuel more gossip. The doorbell rang, unexpected at 8 in the evening. Cautiously, Olivia checked the security camera. Jocelyn Reed stood on her doorstep. For a moment, Olivia considered ignoring her, but curiosity won out. She opened the door, one hand resting protectively on her belly. "What do you want?" she asked without preamble. Jocelyn looked different, her perfect blonde hair now shorter, her designer clothes replaced by something more subdued. Her eyes held none of the triumph from their last encounter. "May I come in? Please. It's important." Against her better judgment, Olivia stepped aside. They moved to the living room where Jocelyn perched on the edge of the sofa, tension evident in every line of her body. "I've been interviewed by the FBI 6 times, she began without preamble. "They think I was part of Griffin's plan. I wasn't. I was just another person he used." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I found something." Jocelyn reached into her bag, withdrawing a small flash drive. "Griffin asked me to destroy some files before everything fell apart. I didn't. I kept copies." Olivia stared at the tiny device. "What's on it?" "Evidence. His real financial records, not the ones he showed investors or the SEC. Accounts I never knew about until the end." Jocelyn placed the drive on the coffee table between them. "And emails. To this Elena woman going back almost 2 years." 2 years, Olivia echoed, the timeline coming into focus. "Before we even started trying for a baby." Jocelyn nodded. "He was using both of us, me as the obvious distraction, making sure people would focus on our affair rather than his true exit strategy." "Why give this to me? Why not the FBI?" "I did. I gave them copies weeks ago." Jocelyn's expression hardened. "They're still treating me like a suspect, following me, questioning my every move." She gestured to the drive. "But there's something else on there, something personal. Emails where Griffin specifically discusses framing you, laying the groundwork to make you take the fall." Olivia's breath caught. Why would he document that? Arrogance. He never thought anyone would see these. They were on his personal laptop, which conveniently went missing in the accident. Jocelyn leaned forward. "He's setting you up, Olivia. Just like he set me up. Just like he set up Marshall." The mention of Marshall's name triggered something in Olivia's mind, a connection she hadn't made before. The contractor who came forward. Adams Construction. "He was Griffin's poker buddy," Jocelyn confirmed. "Griffin must have promised him something to lie." Olivia picked up the drive, turning it over in her fingers. "Why help me now, after everything?" Jocelyn's composure finally cracked, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Because I was wrong about you. I believed what Griffin told me, that you were calculating, that you trapped him with the pregnancy. I believed it because I wanted to." She wiped at her eyes. "I'm trying to undo some of the damage I helped cause." A sharp pain radiated across Olivia's abdomen, causing her to gasp. Jocelyn rose in alarm. "Are you okay?" "I think it's just Braxton Hicks," Olivia managed, though the intensity suggested otherwise. She reached for her phone. "I should call—" Another contraction hit, stronger this time. Her water broke in a sudden rush, soaking the carpet beneath her feet. "Oh my God!" Jocelyn's eyes widened. "You're in labor." Olivia nodded, unable to speak through the pain. This wasn't supposed to happen yet. She still had 3 weeks until her due date. "I'll call an ambulance." Jocelyn reached for her own phone. "No time," Olivia gasped as another contraction ripped through her. "Drive me, please." In a surreal turn of events, Olivia found herself being helped to the car by the woman who had once gloated over taking her husband. As Jocelyn sped toward the hospital, Olivia clutched the flash drive in one hand, the potential key to her exoneration. "Call Marshall," she managed between contractions, "and Rachel." Jocelyn made the calls on speakerphone, explaining the situation with surprising composure. Both promised to meet them at the hospital. As they pulled into the emergency entrance, Olivia was seized by another powerful contraction. Medical staff rushed out with a wheelchair. "You're going to be okay," Jocelyn said, squeezing her hand before the nurses took over. "Both of you." In the chaos of admission and being rushed to labor and delivery, Olivia realized she'd dropped the flash drive in Jocelyn's car, the potential evidence of her innocence, gone in a moment of crisis. "Wait," she called to Jocelyn, who stood uncertainly in the corridor as they wheeled Olivia away. "The drive, I'll keep it safe," Jocelyn promised, understanding immediately. "I'll wait for Marshall." As the doors to the delivery ward swung closed, Olivia surrendered to the overwhelming physical demands of bringing new life into the world, hoping that somehow, on this night of unexpected alliances, the tide might finally be turning in her favor. "Push, Olivia! Just one more big push!" Dr. Chen's voice seemed to come from a great distance as Olivia summoned her last reserves of strength. The delivery room's harsh lights blurred, faces around her melting into indistinct shapes. For 6 grueling hours she'd labored, alone yet surrounded, fighting to bring her child safely into a world that had become increasingly hostile. With a final, primal effort, she pushed. The relief was immediate and overwhelming. The pressure gone, replaced by the indignant cry of new life. "It's a boy," Dr. Chen announced, lifting the squirming, red-faced infant. A beautiful, healthy boy. Tears streamed down Olivia's face as they placed her son on her chest. Through the haze of exhaustion, she marveled at his perfect features. Tiny fingers grasping, eyes squeezed shut against the brightness, a dusting of dark hair plastered to his head. "Hello," she whispered, her voice raw from exertion. "I've been waiting for you." The world contracted to this single point of connection, mother and child meeting at last. In this moment, Griffin's betrayal, the legal threats, the uncertain future, all receded before the visceral reality of her son's heartbeat against her own. A nurse approached gently. "Do you have a name picked out?" Olivia nodded. She'd considered many options over the months, but in this moment only one felt right. "Ethan," she said softly. "Ethan James Kingston." The name held no connection to Griffin or his family. A clean break, a new beginning. Ethan, meaning strong or enduring. James for her grandfather, who taught her to draw her first building. Kingston, her reclaimed identity. As the medical team tended to her and the baby, Olivia's thoughts drifted to the flash drive Jocelyn had delivered, the potential key to clearing her name, now in the hands of a woman she'd once considered her enemy. Had Jocelyn given it to Marshall? Or had the entire encounter been another elaborate setup? The doors swung open and Marshall burst in, his expression a mix of concern and elation. Behind him came Rachel Tanner, still in formal court attire. "I'm sorry," Marshall said, moving to her bedside. "We got held up at security. Hospital protocols about visitors." He trailed off as he caught sight of Ethan. "Oh, Olivia. He's perfect." Rachel approached more cautiously. "Congratulations. I hate to intrude on this moment, but there are developments you need to know about." Olivia tensed, instinctively drawing Ethan closer to her chest. "The flash drive?" "Yes." Rachel glanced at the medical staff, then lowered her voice. Jocelyn turned it over to Marshall. "We've reviewed the contents. It's significant. Tell me." The emails confirm Griffin was planning his exit strategy for nearly 2 years, including deliberate efforts to implicate you if things went wrong. Rachel's expression hardened. He discussed it explicitly with Elena Kuznetsova, how to create a paper trail that would lead back to you, how to manipulate records to make it appear you were involved in the financial decisions. Relief washed over Olivia. Vindication after months of mounting suspicion. "I've already contacted AUSA Wong," Rachel continued. "He's reviewing the materials now, but his initial response was promising. This could change everything." Marshall squeezed Olivia's hand. "There's more. The drive contained records of all Griffin's hidden accounts, at least 15 we didn't know about. Money scattered across jurisdictions specifically chosen for their banking secrecy. And correspondence about the car accident," Rachel added. "It was staged as we suspected, down to the smallest detail, including blood from a minor medical procedure Griffin had undergone weeks earlier, stored specifically to plant in the vehicle." Olivia looked down at Ethan, now sleeping peacefully against her. "So it's over? They'll stop investigating me?" Rachel tempered her optimism. "Not immediately. They'll need to authenticate everything, and Griffin's attorney will undoubtedly claim the files were fabricated. But yes, I believe this is the turning point." A nurse approached, gently indicating that the baby needed to be examined and Olivia required rest. As they wheeled Ethan to the nursery, promising to return him soon, Olivia felt the adrenaline that had sustained her beginning to ebb. "There's one more thing," Marshall said once they were alone. "Jocelyn is outside. She wants to see you, if you're up to it." Olivia considered this unexpected twist. 24 hours ago, she would have refused outright. Now, everything had shifted. "Send her in," she decided. Jocelyn entered hesitantly, her usual confidence absent. She carried a small gift bag, which she placed awkwardly on the bedside table. I don't know if it's appropriate, she explained, but I saw it in the gift shop and... She trailed off, clearly uncomfortable. Thank you, Olivia said, too tired for animosity. And thank you for the drive, for helping me get here. Jocelyn nodded, her gaze fixed on the floor. I owed you that much. More, actually. She looked up finally, meeting Olivia's eyes directly. I believed what Griffin told me about you, because it was easier than facing the truth, that I was helping destroy someone's life for my own benefit. The raw honesty of the confession hung in the air between them. We were both deceived, Olivia said finally, in different ways but effectively. The FBI wants me to testify, Jocelyn continued. So about everything I know, the fake accounts, the documents I helped prepare, the meetings with investors, where Griffin presented fraudulent information. Will you? Yes. Her answer came without hesitation. It won't undo the damage, but it's a start. After Jocelyn left, Olivia drifted into an exhausted sleep, waking only when the nurse returned with Ethan for feeding. In the quiet pre-dawn hours, cradling her son in the dim light of the hospital room, she allowed herself to imagine a future without the shadow of Griffin's betrayal hanging over them. The image on Rachel's tablet showed a luxurious beachfront property, modern architecture with clean lines and expansive glass, overlooking crystal blue waters. Costa Rica, Rachel explained. No extradition treaty with the United States. The property was purchased 6 months ago through a shell company ultimately traced to one of Griffin's hidden accounts. 3 days had passed since Ethan's birth. Olivia sat in her hospital bed, preparing for discharge, while Rachel updated her on the rapidly evolving case. They think he's there now? Intelligence suggests he and Elena Kuznetsova traveled from Vancouver to Mexico City, then to San Jose, Costa Rica, 2 weeks ago. Rachel set the tablet aside. The FBI believes he's liquidating assets from various accounts, preparing for permanent relocation. And legally, what does this mean for me? The U.S. Attorney's Office has officially cleared you as a subject of investigation. They're pursuing charges solely against Griffin, with additional counts for identity theft and obstruction of justice related to his attempts to frame you. Rachel allowed herself a small smile. The contractor who claimed you directed him to use inferior materials has recanted his statement and admitted Griffin paid him to lie. A wave of relief washed over Olivia. So, it's really over. The investigation into you, yes. The larger case against Griffin continues, and may for years, especially if he remains outside U.S. jurisdiction. Olivia glanced at Ethan, sleeping peacefully in the hospital bassinet. And financially, what's left? That's complicated. Rachel opened a folder. The good news is that the court has ruled favorably on our petition regarding community property. Despite Griffin's attempts to hide assets, you're entitled to half of everything acquired during the marriage, including what they're able to recover from the hidden accounts. And the bad news? Recovery may be difficult, especially for funds moved offshore. The Westlake Development Group is essentially bankrupt, with creditors and investors in line for whatever assets remain. The house? Secure. It was purchased early in your marriage with documented joint funds. Rachel hesitated. There is another matter. Griffin's attorney has filed a motion regarding parental rights. Olivia's heart seized. What? It's a transparent legal maneuver, likely designed to create leverage for financial negotiations. There's no chance a court would grant custody to a fugitive facing federal charges, especially one who's never even seen his child. But why now? He made it clear he wanted nothing to do with the baby, because it's the one point of vulnerability he can still exploit. Rachel closed the folder decisively. We'll fight it, of course, and we'll win. After Rachel left, Marshall arrived to drive Olivia and Ethan home. The hospital room had filled with flowers and gifts from well-wishers, many from colleagues and friends who had distanced themselves during the height of suspicion, but were now eager to re-establish connections. Ready to go home? Marshall asked, carefully placing Ethan in the car seat they'd installed the previous day. Home. The Queen Anne house with its magnificent views and painful memories. Olivia wasn't sure if it would ever truly feel like home again, but it was a starting point. As ready as I'll ever be, she replied. 1 week later, Olivia sat in her living room across from Assistant U.S. Attorney James Wong and FBI Special Agent Devin Clark. Ethan slept in a bassinet nearby, blissfully unaware of the gravity of the conversation. We've received credible intelligence that Griffin Westlake may attempt to return to the United States, Wong explained, his tone carefully neutral. Olivia's pulse quickened. Why would he risk that? He must know you'll arrest him immediately. That's what concerns us, Agent Clark interjected. Our sources indicate he's been making inquiries about legal strategies for surrender under specific conditions. What conditions? Reduced charges, primarily related to the financial crimes, and, Clark hesitated, glancing at Wong. And a custody arrangement for your son, Wong finished. The room seemed to tilt. That's absurd. He's a fugitive. He abandoned his pregnant wife, stole millions, tried to frame me for his crimes. We agree, Wong assured her. No prosecutor would offer such terms, but Griffin may not be thinking rationally at this point. Our psychological profile suggests he's a narcissist facing the collapse of his carefully constructed identity. His behavior may become increasingly unpredictable. Are you saying he's dangerous? Clark leaned forward. We have no specific threat indicators, but as a precaution, we'd like to assign limited surveillance to your residence, just until we have clarity on his intentions. You think he might try to see Ethan? It wasn't a question. We think he might try to leverage your son in some way, Wong clarified, whether through legal channels or other means. After they left, Olivia paced the living room, adrenaline coursing through her system. The idea of Griffin anywhere near Ethan filled her with primal dread. She checked the doors, the windows, the security system, all state-of-the-art, installed after Griffin's disappearance. Marshall arrived that evening with takeout, finding her still on edge. They wouldn't have told you if they thought there was imminent danger, he reasoned as they ate. It's a precaution. I know. Olivia pushed her food around the plate. But I can't help thinking about his pattern. When Griffin can't get what he wants legitimately, he finds another way. Always. You're not alone this time, Marshall reminded her. You have people watching out for you. For both of you. Later, after Marshall left and Ethan had been fed and settled, Olivia sat in the nursery watching her son sleep. The peaceful rise and fall of his tiny chest contrasted sharply with the turmoil in her mind. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. He looks like you, that's fortunate. Ice formed in her veins. She dialed Agent Clark immediately, her voice shaking as she reported the message. Stay inside. Lock everything. We're sending officers now, he instructed. Within minutes, police cars arrived, officers securing the perimeter, while Agent Clark and his partner searched the property. They found nothing, but the message was enough to establish a direct protective detail. 2 agents stationed outside, rotating shifts. After 3 days of heightened security with no further incidents, Rachel arrived with news that shattered the uneasy calm. The Costa Rica property is empty, she reported. Griffin and Eleanor left abruptly 2 days ago. Local authorities found discarded documents indicating they might be traveling on false passports. Did they say where they were going? No, but this arrived at my office this morning. Rachel handed Olivia a sealed envelope. It was delivered by courier, no return address. Olivia opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a single sheet of heavy stationery bearing a handwritten message. Olivia, by now you understand the scale of what I've built and what I've lost. Some would call it justice. I call it a temporary setback. I have resources they haven't found, connections beyond their reach. The legal system is an inconvenience, not an obstacle. I've seen photos of my son, our son. He deserves better than a life defined by his mother's bitterness and limited ambitions. He deserves the world I can provide. We will discuss terms soon. Be reasonable, and this can end well for everyone. Griffin Olivia sank into a chair, the letter falling from her hands. He's coming for Ethan. Rachel picked up the letter, reading it quickly. This is a threat, plain and simple. We need to strengthen the protective order immediately. That night, despite the security measures, 2 FBI agents outside, Seattle police conducting regular drive-bys. Olivia couldn't sleep. She brought Ethan's bassinet into her bedroom, unwilling to let him out of her sight even for a moment. Around 3 a.m., her phone lit up with a text notification. Another unknown number. Look out your window. Her heart hammering, she approached the window cautiously, peering through a gap in the curtains. The street below was quiet, rain glistening on the pavement under streetlights. The FBI agent's sedan was parked across the street, one agent visible inside. Nothing seemed amiss until she noticed a small object on the porch, something that hadn't been there earlier. Fighting every instinct telling her to stay inside, Olivia called Agent Clark. then crept downstairs while they dispatched additional units. Through the sidelight window, she could see it clearly now, a small blue gift box with a silver ribbon, positioned directly in front of her door. Someone had approached her house, evaded both the security system and the FBI surveillance, and left it there. A deliberate message that no protection was adequate. When the FBI tactical team arrived, they secured and examined the package. Inside was a sterling silver baby rattle, engraved with Ethan's initials and birth date. Attached was a note in Griffin's distinctive handwriting, a father's first gift to his son, more to come. "How did he get past security?" Olivia demanded, clutching Ethan to her chest as agents swarmed through her house. "He was right outside my door." Agent Clark looked grim. "We're reviewing camera footage now. Preliminary indication is that the package was delivered by a third party, possibly a courier service or paid proxy." "That doesn't answer my question. How did someone approach my house without being seen by your agents?" "Ms. Kingston," Clark's voice softened slightly, "Griffin Westlake has extensive resources and connections. We're dealing with someone who planned his disappearance meticulously, created elaborate financial structures to hide millions, and evaded international authorities. This isn't a typical case. The implication was clear. They couldn't guarantee complete protection. Griffin's message had achieved its goal, demonstrating his reach and undermining her sense of security in the most intimate way possible. By morning, the FBI had implemented enhanced security protocols, additional agents, surveillance equipment, regular perimeter checks. Rachel arrived with court papers for an emergency hearing to address the escalating threat. As they prepared to leave for the courthouse, Marshall pulled Olivia aside. "I've been thinking," he said quietly. "Maybe you shouldn't stay here, not right now. Where would I go? He found me at the hospital. He knows where Rachel works. He'd find me anywhere in Seattle." "Then maybe not Seattle." Marshall hesitated. "My sister has a lake house in northern Michigan. Remote but comfortable. No connection to you or Griffin. Somewhere you could go with Ethan until this is resolved." The suggestion hung in the air between them. A drastic step, but perhaps necessary. Olivia looked at Ethan, peaceful in his carrier despite the chaos surrounding him. "I can't keep running," she said finally, "and I can't let Griffin dictate our lives from the shadows." Before Marshall could respond, Agent Clark approached urgently. "We just received word from Vancouver authorities. Elena Kuznetsova was detained this morning, attempting to cross into Canada using a false passport." Olivia's pulse quickened. "And Griffin?" "Not with her. She's refusing to cooperate, but her phone had recent location data pointing to Seattle." Clark's expression was grave. "We believe Griffin Westlake is already here in the city." The courthouse suddenly seemed dangerous, a public venue where their appearance was scheduled and predictable. But staying at the house meant remaining in the one location Griffin knew intimately, where he'd already demonstrated his ability to breach security. "What do we do?" Olivia asked, looking from Clark to Rachel to Marshall. "We adjust," Rachel said decisively. "I'll request an emergency telephonic hearing instead of appearing in person. Agent Clark will coordinate with local law enforcement to enhance security here while we explore relocation options." As they implemented the revised plan, Olivia's phone buzzed with an incoming call, a blocked number. Against the agent's advice, she answered, putting it on speaker. "Hello, Olivia." Griffin's voice smooth and controlled as ever. "I trust you received my gift." "Griffin." Olivia's voice remained steady, despite the adrenaline surging through her veins. Agent Clark motioned frantically, signaling for her to keep him talking while they traced the call. "It's good to hear your voice," Griffin continued, as though they were having a casual conversation. "You sound well, considering the circumstances. What do you want?" Olivia clutched Ethan closer to her chest, her free hand trembling. Such hostility. A note of amusement colored his tone. "I simply wanted to congratulate you on our son's birth. Ethan James Kingston, is it? Interesting choice, removing my family name entirely." The casual mention of Ethan's full name, information that hadn't been publicly released, sent a chill through Olivia. Griffin's network of information was more extensive than they'd realized. "You forfeited any right to have your name associated with my son when you abandoned us," she replied, her voice hardening. "When you tried to frame me for your crimes." "A regrettable necessity," Griffin said. The words so callous they momentarily robbed Olivia of speech. "Business required certain adjustments. Nothing personal." "Nothing personal?" Outrage overcame caution. You tried to destroy my life. I tried to protect my assets, he corrected, as if explaining something simple to a child. You became a liability, but that's behind us now. I'm proposing a fresh start. Agent Clark held up 5 fingers, then 4, counting down as they worked to trace the call. What kind of fresh start? Olivia asked, forcing herself to remain engaged. A mutually beneficial arrangement. Griffin's voice took on the smooth cadence he'd always used in negotiations. I have resources beyond what the authorities have discovered. Substantial resources. I'm prepared to create a trust fund for Ethan. 20 million to start. You'd have access as his guardian, of course. In exchange for what? Reasonable access to my son, and your cooperation in certain legal matters. 3 fingers now. 2. You mean you want me to lie for you? Olivia translated. To help clear your name. I mean, I want you to be practical. Think about Ethan's future. What I'm offering would secure his education, his opportunities, his entire life. All you need to do is sign a few affidavits, stating that you had knowledge of and involvement in the financial structures of Westlake Development. 1 finger. Clark made a slashing motion across his throat. They had a location. You're asking me to confess to crimes I didn't commit, Olivia stated flatly, to make myself an accomplice. I'm asking you to share responsibility for decisions that benefited us both. You enjoyed the house, the lifestyle, the social position my work provided. Your fraud provided, she corrected. And no, I won't do it. Griffin's sigh carried a hint of genuine disappointment. I expected better from you, Olivia, for Ethan's sake. This is for Ethan's sake. I won't teach my son that integrity is negotiable, that the truth is something you can sell. Such nobility. Griffin's voice cooled perceptibly. But consider the alternative. If you force this confrontation, everything becomes public. Every detail of our marriage, my indiscretions, the financial mismanagement. Is that the legacy you want for our son? To grow up with his family's dirty laundry splashed across the news? Better than growing up believing his father's lies, Olivia countered. Better than learning that his mother sold her soul for comfort. A long pause followed. When Griffin spoke again, his tone had shifted. The negotiator replaced by something colder, more calculating. You have 24 hours to reconsider. After that, things become significantly less pleasant for everyone involved. The line went dead. Agent Clark was already on another phone, coordinating with tactical teams based on the trace. We've got a location, he announced. Beacon Hill neighborhood. Units are en route. Olivia sank onto the sofa, the phone slipping from her fingers. The brief conversation had drained her completely, leaving her hollow yet hyper-aware of every sound, every movement around her. He won't be there, she said quietly. He's too smart for that. Maybe, Clark acknowledged, but it's a starting point, and his call gives us grounds to expand surveillance warrants, tap additional lines. Rachel sat beside Olivia, her expression grave. We need to consider the threat implicit in his deadline. 24 hours. He's planning something, Marshall agreed from across the room. Something to force your hand. I won't sign those affidavits, Olivia declared, no matter what he threatens. No one's asking you to, Rachel assured her, but we need to prepare for escalation. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. FBI agents established a command center in Olivia's dining room. Tactical teams reported that the Beacon Hill location, a short-term rental apartment, was empty but showed signs of recent occupation. Items left behind suggested Griffin had been monitoring Olivia for days, possibly weeks, including photographs of her attending doctor's appointments while still pregnant. As evening approached, Rachel received a package at her office, divorce papers prepared by Griffin's attorney, coupled with a custody petition demanding immediate shared guardianship of Ethan. It's a multi-front strategy, Rachel explained, spreading the documents across Olivia's kitchen island. Legal pressure combined with personal threats. He's creating leverage from every possible angle. Can he actually get custody? The question that had haunted Olivia for months now seemed terrifyingly immediate. No court would grant custody to a fugitive facing federal charges, Rachel reiterated. But he's not thinking rationally. Or perhaps he believes he can manipulate the system, as he's manipulated everything else. Marshall, who had been consulting with security specialists, joined them with a grim expression. There's something else we need to consider. Griffin knows this house intimately. Its layout, its security features, even the blind spots in the surveillance system. You think he might try to break in? Agent Clark asked. I think we can't rule anything out, Marshall replied. His behavior is escalating. He's desperate and unpredictable. Then we need to move Olivia and Ethan to a secure location, Clark decided. A safe house, established protocol. Olivia looked from Ethan, sleeping peacefully in his carrier, to the home she'd fought so hard to keep. The thought of leaving felt like another surrender to Griffin's manipulation. "No," she said firmly. "This is my house. I won't be driven out of it." "Mrs. Kingston," Clark began, "with all due respect." "I understand the risks," she interrupted. "But I'm done running, done hiding. Griffin thrives on control and fear. If I leave, he wins another round." The room fell silent, the others exchanging concerned glances. "Then we fortify," Marshall said finally. "We make this the most secure house in Seattle for the next 24 hours. Through the night, FBI technicians installed additional surveillance equipment. Entry points were reinforced, panic buttons installed in multiple rooms. Olivia barely slept, alternating between watching over Ethan and staring out at the rain-slicked streets below, wondering if Griffin was out there, watching. Dawn broke grey and misty, typical Seattle winter weather. Agent Clark coordinated shift changes for the security team, while Rachel prepared for an emergency hearing scheduled for 2 p.m., a judicial response to Griffin's custody petition. At precisely 10:00 a.m., Olivia's phone chimed with an email notification. The sender, Griffin Westlake. "We're monitoring," Clark assured her as she opened it. The message contained only a video attachment. With trembling fingers, Olivia pressed play. Griffin appeared on screen looking thinner than she remembered but impeccably dressed as always. He sat in what appeared to be a hotel room, sunlight streaming through windows behind him. "Olivia," he began, his grey eyes focused directly on the camera. "I assume we're being watched, so I'll address everyone. Agent Clark, Ms. Tanner, and of course Marshall, always the loyal friend." The casual mention of everyone involved sent a wave of unease through the room. "Time is short, so I'll be direct. My previous offer stands with a deadline of noon today. 20 million in a trust for Ethan, a clean slate legally for both of us, a civilized custody arrangement." Griffin leaned closer to the camera. "Refuse and I release everything, not just evidence of financial irregularities at Westlake Development bearing Olivia's electronic signatures, signatures that would be difficult, though not impossible, to prove were forged, but also the more personal materials." He held up a flash drive. Emails between Olivia and Marshall dating back 3 years, suggesting a relationship that predates any troubles in our marriage. Texts discussing dissatisfaction with our marriage while presenting a perfect facade to the world. Private conversations recorded in our home office. Olivia gasped. "That's impossible. There was never—" "They're fabricated," Marshall said immediately, "just like the financial records." "Of course they are," Griffin continued on screen, as if anticipating their response. "But they're convincing enough to create doubt, convincing enough to tarnish reputations, to complicate legal proceedings, to raise questions about who exactly is the victim in this scenario." He set the drive down carefully. "But most damaging of all, convincing enough to create a public record that will follow Ethan throughout his life. Every school application, every social introduction, every future relationship shadowed by scandal and uncertainty." Griffin's expression softened, a masterful performance of concern. "Is that what you want for him, Olivia? To grow up with that burden? To someday discover the ugliness we created?" He checked his watch. Noon. At the downtown Marriott, room 1217. "Come alone." "Well, with Ethan, of course. Bring the affidavits I've had delivered to Rachel's office, signed and notarized. In return, you'll receive the original drives containing all the fabricated materials, plus documentation of the trust fund already established in Ethan's name." The video ended abruptly, leaving a charged silence in its wake. "It's a trap," Clark stated flatly. "We can't allow you to meet him." "There won't be any meeting," Rachel interjected. "We're getting an arrest warrant right now. We know exactly where he is." "Do we?" Olivia questioned, her mind racing. "Griffin never makes it that easy. The hotel room is a decoy, or he's already gone, or it's someone else entirely waiting there." Marshall studied the freeze frame of the video, the hotel room visible behind Griffin. "The light is wrong." "What?" Clark turned to him. "The sunlight coming through those windows. It's early morning light from the east, but the Marriott downtown has no east-facing rooms on the 12th floor. That hotel overlooks Puget Sound to the west." Clark immediately began calling his team, redirecting resources to identify the actual filming location. Amid the flurry of activity, Olivia retreated to the nursery with Ethan, needing a moment away from the tactical discussions, the strategic planning. As she gazed down at her son's peaceful face, a clarity emerged through her emotional turmoil. Griffin had always operated on the assumption that everyone shared his value system, that material comfort outweighed integrity, that public perception mattered more than truth, that winning justified any means necessary. He couldn't conceive of someone rejecting his offer on principle alone, which created his one blind spot. Returning to the command center in her dining room, Olivia found Agent Clark coordinating teams throughout the city, trying to locate Griffin based on analysis of the video background. "I need to respond to him," she announced. Clark looked up sharply. "Absolutely not. Any contact could compromise our operation." "He's expecting a response," Olivia persisted. "If I don't engage, he'll know something's wrong. We need to buy time while you find him." After a heated discussion, they agreed on a carefully worded email. "Griffin, I need more time to consider your proposal and consult with my attorney about the implications. Can we extend the deadline to 5 p.m. today?" Olivia. The response came almost immediately. "The deadline stands. Noon. The consequences of refusal are non-negotiable." Clark swore under his breath. "We're running out of time. The video analysis is narrowing down possible locations, but we need hours, not minutes." "What if we send someone posing as Olivia to the Marriott?" Marshall suggested. "At least eliminate that possibility." As they debated options, Olivia's phone buzzed with another email from Griffin. This one contained a single image, a photograph of her mother leaving Chicago O'Hare Airport, timestamp showing less than an hour ago. "My mother," Olivia whispered, showing them the screen. "She's flying in today to help with the baby. How did he—" "He's expanding the pressure points," Clark said grimly. "Family members, flight information. He's demonstrating reach beyond just you and Ethan." "We need to intercept her at SeaTac," Rachel insisted. "Get her into protective custody immediately." As Clark dispatched agents to the airport, Olivia's phone chimed again. Another email, another photograph. This one showed Marshall's sister and her family at their lake house in Michigan, the supposed safe haven they'd discussed. He was listening, Marshall realized, his face draining of color. "He has our conversations from inside this house." Technical specialists immediately began sweeping the house for surveillance devices, finding 3 sophisticated microphones hidden in light fixtures, recently installed, likely during the brief window when the house had been accessed by Jocelyn and the movers weeks earlier. With each revelation, Griffin's web of control pulled tighter. He'd anticipated their moves, monitored their plans, identified every potential escape route, and blocked it. The countdown to noon continued inexorably. At 11:30 a.m., with Clark's team still searching possible locations based on the video analysis, Olivia made a decision. "I need to speak with Jocelyn Reed," she announced. Claire frowned. "Ms. Reed is under FBI surveillance as a material witness. She's not cleared for contact." "She knows Griffin better than anyone except me," Olivia insisted. "She might recognize something in the video, some detail we've missed." After hasty arrangements, Jocelyn was patched through on a secure line, the video forwarded to her. "It's not a hotel," she said immediately after viewing it. "It's the penthouse at the Alexandria." "The luxury condo building on First Hill?" Clark confirmed. "Yes, Unit 3001. Griffin considered buying it before we chose the Queen Anne house. He was obsessed with the view, the sunrise over the Cascades." Jocelyn's voice carried a mixture of bitterness and certainty. "That's where he is. I guarantee it." Clark mobilized tactical teams immediately, establishing a perimeter around the Alexandria while gathering intelligence on the penthouse unit. Satellite images confirmed the floor plan matched what was visible in Griffin's video. "Property records?" Olivia asked. "Owned by a shell corporation," Rachel reported after a quick search. "Sunrise Ventures LLC, registered in Delaware 3 months ago." "That's him," Olivia confirmed. "Griffin always said the best view in Seattle was sunrise over the mountains. He used to joke about naming a development Sunrise someday." As tactical teams prepared for entry, Marshall pulled Olivia aside. "You should take Ethan to a secure location now. This is about to end one way or another." Olivia glanced at the clock, 11:45 a.m. "Not until I know it's really over." At precisely noon, as SWAT teams took position around the Alexandria, Griffin sent one final email. Time's up. I'm disappointed, Olivia. Truly. Attached was a link to a cloud storage account set to automatically publish its contents to multiple media outlets at 12:15 p.m. unless a specific code was entered. 15 minutes, Clark muttered, coordinating with the tactical team through his earpiece. Teams are in position, but we need a judge to approve the no-knock entry. We don't have time for that, Olivia said, reviewing the cloud storage link. It contained previews of dozens of files, the fabricated emails between her and Marshall, doctored financial records with her signatures, even manipulated photographs suggesting a long-term affair. Griffin had created an elaborate alternative reality, one that would be plausible enough to create lasting doubt about her character, her integrity, her very identity. A poison legacy that would indeed follow Ethan throughout his life. Call him, she told Clark. Tell him I'm on my way with the signed affidavits. Buy us a few more minutes. Clark shook his head. Too risky. He'll see through it. Then I'll call him myself. Olivia reached for her phone, but Clark intercepted her. Mrs. Kingston, I understand your concern, but we have protocols. Their standoff was interrupted by Rachel, who had been conferring with technical specialists. There's another option. The cloud storage service requires authentication for major changes. If we can access Griffin's email account, we might be able to trigger a password reset and prevent the scheduled release. How do we access his email? Marshall asked. We don't, Rachel turned to Olivia. But you might. You shared devices for years. Did you ever know his passwords? Security questions? Anything that might help us break in? Olivia closed her eyes, thinking back through their marriage. Griffin had been meticulous about digital security, changing passwords regularly, using different credentials for different accounts. His primary password pattern was a combination of meaningful dates and initials, she recalled, but he would have changed those once we separated. Security questions? Rachel pressed. Those are harder to change, and people often use consistent answers. He used... Olivia paused, a memory surfacing. For his financial accounts, he always used his childhood dog's name as a security question, Rusty. But for personal accounts, it was his grandmother's maiden name, Bennett. The technical specialist immediately began attempting account recovery procedures using this information. At 12:10, with just 5 minutes remaining before the automatic release, they succeeded in accessing Griffin's email account. We're in, the specialist announced, triggering password reset for the cloud storage service now. As they worked frantically to disable the scheduled publication, Clark received word from the tactical team. Suspect identified in target location, proceeding with entry. The next few minutes unfolded in a blur of tension and activity. On Clark's tablet, they watched body camera footage as SWAT officers breached the penthouse door, securing room after room with practiced efficiency. Clear, clear! Move to the master suite! The camera jerked as officers approached the final door. When it swung open, Griffin Westlake stood by floor-to-ceiling windows, silhouetted against the Seattle skyline, his hands raised in a gesture that seemed more ironic than surrendering. Gentlemen, his voice came clearly through the audio, you're right on time. As officers moved to secure him, Griffin smiled directly into the camera. I assume Olivia is watching. Tell her she wins this round. But the game isn't over. 12:15 p.m. came and went. The technical team confirmed they'd successfully disabled the automated publication. Across the city, Griffin Westlake was taken into custody without resistance. His 18-month evasion of justice finally ended. In the sudden quiet of Olivia's dining room, the adrenaline that had sustained everyone began to ebb, replaced by stunned relief. Is it really over? Olivia asked, cradling Ethan, who had slept through the entire operation. The immediate threat, yes, Clark confirmed. He'll be held without bail pending arraignment on multiple federal charges. Given the evidence, he's looking at decades in prison. And the fabricated materials? Marshall asked. Secured. We've taken control of the accounts and storage locations we know about. Clark's expression remained cautious. Though we can't guarantee there aren't additional copies elsewhere. There always are with Griffin, Olivia acknowledged. Contingencies for his contingencies. As the FBI team began dismantling their command center, Rachel took Olivia aside. There's a long legal road ahead. The criminal prosecution, finalizing the divorce, securing Ethan's future. But today was decisive. You stood your ground, and you won. Later that evening, after everyone had departed and the house had fallen quiet except for Ethan's occasional soft noises, Olivia sat in the nursery rocking chair, watching the city lights emerge against the darkening sky. For the first time in months, the future seemed to hold more promise than threat. Griffin would face justice. She would rebuild her life, her career, her sense of self beyond the shadow of his betrayal. Marshall had left hours earlier to meet his sister's family at the airport, promising to check in the following day. Their relationship, whatever it might become, would unfold naturally, without Griffin's manipulations casting doubt on every interaction. As she gazed down at Ethan, his tiny hand wrapped around her finger, Olivia felt a profound shift within herself. Not just relief at danger averted, but a deeper recognition of her own strength, resilience, and capacity for growth through adversity. 3 months later, on a rare sunny spring morning, Olivia stood on the deck of her Queen Anne home, watching movers carry furniture into the waiting truck below. Ethan, now thriving at 4 months old, observed the activity from his carrier with wide, curious eyes. "Last box," Marshall announced, joining them on the deck with a sealed carton labeled "Office." "That's it then," Olivia said, a mixture of emotions coloring her voice. 15 years in Seattle condensed into a moving truck. The decision to sell the house had come gradually, emerging from her long conversations with Dr. Chen during Ethan's checkups, sessions with her therapist, and quiet reflections in the midnight hours while feeding her son. The Queen Anne house, for all its spectacular views and luxury appointments, had become a museum of painful memories. Griffin's betrayal, Jocelyn's cruelty, the surveillance, the fear. Each room held echoes of a life built on illusion and compromised integrity. "Having second thoughts?" Marshall asked gently. "No," Olivia replied with certainty. "It's time for a fresh start, for both of us." She smiled down at Ethan. The house had sold quickly and well above asking price, providing Olivia with significant resources beyond what had been recovered from Griffin's hidden accounts. Combined with her partnership at Diane's firm, which was flourishing with several sustainable development projects, her financial future was secure. Griffin's legal situation had progressed as expected. Denied bail and facing overwhelming evidence, he'd attempted various legal maneuvers to reduce his exposure, all unsuccessful. The trial was scheduled for the fall, with both Jocelyn Reed and Marshall prepared to testify about the full extent of his financial crimes. True to form, Griffin had made one final attempt at manipulation, offering to plead guilty to reduced charges in exchange for Olivia's testimony about her involvement in the company's operations. The prosecutor had dismissed the offer outright, showing Griffin that his leverage had finally irrevocably expired. "The car's packed," Marshall reported. "Your mom's already at the new place, getting the nursery set up." Olivia nodded, taking one last look at the Seattle skyline, the Space Needle, Mount Rainier in the distance, the waters of Puget Sound. For years, this view had represented achievement, success, arrival. Now it simply marked a chapter closing. "I never thought I'd leave," she admitted. "This city was home for so long." "Portland's not that far," Marshall reminded her. "Close enough to maintain your clients here, far enough for a genuine new beginning." The decision to relocate to Portland had come after careful consideration. The city's commitment to sustainable architecture aligned perfectly with Olivia's professional vision, while offering distance from the notoriety that still occasionally followed her in Seattle. Margaret Kingston, her mother, had decided to move as well, buying a small house just 10 minutes from Olivia's new home. "Ready?" Marshall asked, picking up Ethan's carrier. "Almost." Olivia reached into her pocket, withdrawing the keys to the Queen Anne house. She held them for a moment, feeling their weight, literal and metaphorical, before placing them on the patio table for the new owners. As they drove away, Olivia didn't look back at the house. Instead, she focused on the road ahead, on Ethan sleeping peacefully in his car seat, on the future they would build together, one constructed not of glass walls and pretense, but of truth, resilience, and hard-won wisdom. 4 hours later, they pulled into the driveway of a modest craftsman-style home in Portland's Selwood neighborhood. Unlike the Queen Anne mansion, this house was understated, prioritizing comfort over ostentation, authenticity over impression. "Welcome home," Margaret called from the porch, arms outstretched to embrace her daughter and grandson. As Olivia carried Ethan up the steps of their new home, she paused briefly at the threshold. The journey from the architect of Griffin's ambitions to the architect of her own life had been painful, complicated, and ultimately transformative. She stepped inside, ready at last to build something truly of her own design. 1 year later, on Ethan's first birthday, a small package arrived at Olivia's Portland home. It bore no return address, but the Seattle postmark told her all she needed to know. Inside was a carved wooden box containing a flash drive and a handwritten note. Olivia, some battles you win, some you lose. I've had ample time to reflect on both in my current accommodations. Regardless of our past, our son deserves to know his full story someday, when he's old enough to understand. This drive contains everything. The real financial records, correspondence with Elena, the truth about what happened and why. No manipulations, no fabrications, just facts. Consider it my attempt, however inadequate, at restitution. Griffin Olivia held the drive for a long moment, weighing its significance. Then she placed it back in the box and tucked it away in her desk drawer, not destroyed, but not central to their lives either. Just one piece of a complex history that would be addressed when the time was right. Outside, in the backyard where Ethan's birthday party was underway, Marshall was helping the toddler blow out his single candle while Margaret captured the moment on camera. Diane and her husband chatted with neighbors and colleagues who had become friends over the past year. Through the window, Olivia watched this scene. Ordinary, joyful, authentic. The life she had built from the rubble of betrayal. When she rejoined the party, no one asked about the package or noticed her momentary absence. The past was acknowledged but not defining. The future, with its challenges and possibilities, remained open before them. As Ethan reached for her with frosting-covered hands, Olivia laughed and lifted him into her arms, marveling at how something so beautiful could emerge from such profound pain. In architecture and in life, she had learned, the strongest structures are often those rebuilt after collapse, designed with deeper foundations, more careful consideration, and the wisdom that comes only through weathering storms. 5 years later, the University of Washington School of Architecture buzzed with anticipation as students and faculty gathered for the annual Distinguished Alumni Lecture. Posters featuring Olivia Kingston's photograph and accomplishments lined the hallway leading to the auditorium, highlighting her groundbreaking work in sustainable urban development. "They're ready for you, Ms. Kingston," a young assistant informed her, peeking into the green room where Olivia reviewed her presentation notes one final time. "Thank you," she replied, gathering her tablet and water bottle. "And please, call me Olivia." As she walked toward the stage, Olivia caught sight of her reflection in a window. Auburn hair now styled in a confident shortcut, emerald eyes clear and focused, posture straight but relaxed. At 39, she carried herself with a quiet assurance that came not from external validation, but from profound self-knowledge. The dean's introduction was flattering but factual, detailing her journey from promising young architect to award-winning innovator, whose Portland-based firm, Kingston Sustainable Design, had become a leading voice in eco-conscious urban planning across the Pacific Northwest. What many don't know, the dean concluded, is that Olivia Kingston's greatest designs aren't buildings at all, but blueprints for resilience, integrity, and transformation. Please welcome one of our most inspiring graduates, Olivia Kingston. Applause filled the auditorium as Olivia took the podium. From the front row, 6-year-old Ethan gave her an enthusiastic thumbs up, his dark eyes, so like her own, shining with pride. Beside him sat Marshall, who had transitioned from friend to partner with a patience and steadiness that still amazed her. "Thank you for that generous introduction," Olivia began. "It's a profound honor to return to the place where my architectural journey began, though I confess the path from there to here had far more unexpected turns than I ever anticipated." For the next hour, she shared insights from her career, focusing on the philosophy that had become her firm's hallmark, building not just structures, but legacies that honor both human needs and environmental responsibility. What she didn't mention explicitly, though it infused every aspect of her approach, was how her personal crucible had shaped this vision, how the collapse of a life built on facade and compromise had taught her the essential difference between impression and substance, between a structure that merely appears solid and one with true integrity at its core. After the lecture and a lively Q&A session, Olivia found herself surrounded by students eager for advice and mentorship. Among them was a young woman, whose intensity reminded Olivia of herself at that age. "Ms. Kingston, you're a true inspiration. Thank you for sharing your journey. It's been a pleasure to Your work on the Portland Community Innovation Center changed how I think about adaptive reuse, the student said, clutching a portfolio. But I'm even more inspired by how you rebuilt after everything. Olivia understood the unspoken reference. Though years had passed since the Westlake development scandal and Griffin's subsequent conviction, it remained part of the public record, a cautionary tale in business ethics courses. The principles are the same, actually, Olivia replied thoughtfully. When existing structures fail, you don't just demolish and start from nothing. You salvage what's valuable, examine why the failure occurred, and build something stronger on that knowledge. Later, as Olivia, Marshall, and Ethan walked across the campus where she had once studied, Ethan's boundless energy had him running ahead, examining every fountain and statue with characteristic curiosity. He loved watching you speak, Marshall noted, his hand warm in hers. Couldn't take his eyes off you. I worried it might be boring for him, Olivia admitted. Are you kidding? You're his hero. Last week he told his class that his mom builds buildings that help the planet breathe. Olivia smiled, watching Ethan balance on a low wall, arms outstretched like wings. At 6, he was a remarkable blend of thoughtfulness and exuberance, with none of the calculating coldness that had defined his biological father. Griffin remained in federal prison, serving his 15-year sentence with time off for cooperation, after eventually pleading guilty to reduced charges. He had made sporadic attempts to establish contact with Ethan through carefully worded letters and occasional birthday gifts, which Olivia stored in a box for when Ethan was old enough to decide for himself about that relationship. The flash drive Griffin had sent on Ethan's first birthday remained in Olivia's desk drawer, unopened. She had long since made peace with her decision to preserve rather than destroy it, a recognition that someday Ethan would have questions that only the unvarnished truth could answer. Their return to Seattle for the lecture marked their first visit in over 3 years. The city skyline still felt familiar, but no longer triggered the visceral sense of loss and betrayal it once had. It was simply a place now, beautiful, significant to her history, but no longer defining. We should head back to the hotel, Marshall reminded her gently. Your mother's taking Ethan to the aquarium while we're at the dinner tonight. Margaret Kingston had become an integral part of their lives in Portland, her relationship with Olivia deepening from the formal parent-child dynamic of Olivia's youth to a genuine friendship and partnership in raising Ethan. The trauma they'd weathered together had healed old wounds, creating space for a more authentic connection. Back at the hotel, as Olivia changed for the faculty dinner, her phone buzzed with a notification from a Seattle news outlet. Elena Kuznetsova, former associate of convicted financier Griffin Westlake, arrested in Switzerland on international fraud charges. Olivia stared at the headline, memories flooding back of the dark-haired woman in airport surveillance footage, Griffin's accomplice in deception. According to occasional updates from Rachel Tanner, who had remained both attorney and friend, Elena had disappeared into Eastern Europe after Griffin's arrest, presumably with millions from their hidden accounts. Everything okay? Marshall asked, noting her expression. Just ghosts, Olivia replied, setting the phone aside. Less frightening than they used to be. That evening, at a small gathering of faculty and distinguished alumni, Olivia found herself standing beside a floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the city where her adult life had begun, evolved, and ultimately transformed. Seattle glittered below, beautiful and distant, like a diorama of a place once intimately known, but now viewed through the clarifying lens of time and perspective. "Penny for your thoughts," came a familiar voice. Olivia turned to find Jocelyn Reed approaching, elegant in a simple black dress, her once platinum hair now its natural warm brown. Their paths had crossed occasionally in professional contexts over the years, as Jocelyn had reinvented herself as a business ethics consultant after testifying against Griffin. Their relationship had evolved into something neither would call friendship, but which held a mutual respect born of shared experience. "Just reflecting on how different everything looks from a distance," Olivia replied. Jocelyn nodded, understanding immediately. 5 years. Sometimes it feels like another lifetime. For the better, I think. Definitely. Jocelyn's smile held none of her former calculation. "I saw Ethan's picture in your presentation. He's beautiful. Looks just like you. Thank you." Olivia hesitated, then asked the question she'd occasionally wondered about. "Do you ever hear from him?" "Griffin?" "No." Jocelyn shook her head. "I think I served my purpose in his grand design once that was done." She shrugged, leaving the sentence unfinished. That's how he operates. Everyone has utility until they don't. Took me too long to see that. Jocelyn's gaze turned toward the skyline. Your lecture today about building with integrity, about structures that serve their communities rather than just imposing upon them, it made me think of all the hollow monuments he tried to create. How empty they were beneath the glass and steel. Before Olivia could respond, Marshall approached carrying 2 glasses of wine. He acknowledged Jocelyn with a polite nod, which she returned before excusing herself. Strange to see her here, he commented, handing Olivia a glass. Not really, we're all part of the same story. Olivia took a sip. Different chapters, different perspectives, but connected all the same. As the evening progressed, Olivia found herself drawn repeatedly to the window, to the view of the city where she had once believed her dreams had culminated. Now she understood that what had seemed like an ending, the devastating collapse of her marriage, her reputation, her sense of security, had actually been a beginning. The lessons of that collapse had infused everything she'd built since: her firm's ethical foundation, her approach to sustainable design, her relationships with Marshall, with Ethan, with her mother, even with herself. The principles of architectural integrity she now taught others had been forged in the crucible of personal experience. That true stability comes not from impressive facades, but from honest foundations. That the most enduring structures accommodate both strength and flexibility. Later that night, after returning to their hotel and relieving Margaret of her grandmother duties, Olivia sat on the edge of Ethan's bed, listening to his excited recounting of everything he'd seen at the aquarium. And Mom, did you know octopuses have 3 hearts? 3? And they can change color to match anything around them. It's like they're wearing invisible cloaks. That's amazing. Olivia smiled, brushing dark hair from his forehead. What was your favorite part? Ethan considered this seriously. I liked the jellyfish best. They look so delicate, like they'd break if you touched them. But the guide said they're actually super tough. They can survive in places other animals can't. Resilience often comes in unexpected packages, Olivia agreed. Like you? Ethan asked with the startling perception children sometimes display. Olivia paused, surprised. What do you mean, sweetheart? Grandma told me you're resilient. That it means you got through really hard things and came out stronger. His eyes, so earnest and trusting, held hers. Is that why people wanted to hear you talk today? Because you're resilient like the jellyfish? A lump formed in Olivia's throat. Maybe a little bit, but mostly they wanted to hear about the buildings I design. I think it's both, Ethan decided with the certainty of a 6-year-old. Your buildings are special because you're special. After Ethan finally drifted off to sleep, Olivia joined Marshall on the hotel balcony. The Seattle night spread before them, a tapestry of lights and shadows, familiar yet new. He called me resilient, she said softly. Ethan, he compared me to jellyfish. Marshall laughed. High praise from a 6-year-old. It is, actually. Olivia leaned against the railing. 5 years ago, I couldn't imagine standing here, looking at this city without pain. I couldn't imagine rebuilding a life that felt authentic, not constructed for someone else's vision. You did more than rebuild, Marshall observed. You transformed. The structures you design now have nothing to prove, nothing to hide. They simply serve their purpose with integrity. He took her hand. Like their architect. Below them, Seattle continued its nighttime rhythm. Lights changing, people moving, the constant evolution of a living city. In 2 days they would return to Portland, to the home and life they had thoughtfully constructed together. But for now, Olivia allowed herself to fully inhabit this moment of completion, of circles closing and opening simultaneously. The house of glass Griffin had built, fragile, transparent, designed to impress rather than endure, had indeed shattered. But from those fragments, Olivia had created something far more valuable, a life of substance, a legacy of integrity, and the profound understanding that our greatest designs emerge not from our moments of perfect vision, but from how we rebuild after everything falls apart. If this story touched your heart and you want to keep following inspiring and moving stories, be sure to check out our upcoming videos. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to stay updated on new content that can brighten your journey and provide valuable insights. Join us and keep exploring stories that truly matter. I'm sure the next video that pops up on your screen will touch you as well, so click on it now and we'll see you there.